Hello and welcome to PM Personality Profile. Well, today I'm here to bring you the most unassuming politician you've ever met. And if anybody was to tell you that this guy used to box in school, you wouldn't believe it. Such a gentle soul. I'm here to talk to the honorable member of WA Central, Rashid Pelpuo. Such a gentleman, and he has a glory. All we are here to find out is the story. Stay tuned and be entertained. Well, thank you very much for staying. And, this is obviously the favorite part, as I'd already said, on Fridays, you started your week by he said, she said, he beat me, she beat me, all the bickering. So come Friday evenings when you are sat home relaxing, you want something different, something relaxing, something educative, something that you can pick a seed from and plant in your own life and hopefully harvest something better. And today, as I said, we have just that. Rashid Pelpuo, Honorable Member of Parliament for WA Central, the heart of WA. And it's amazing that the pestering and busy town chooses the most gentlest of its citizens to say, that's it, you go and represent us. But you know what they say, opposites attract. Well, here we are. Rashid, thank you so much. We are honored to have your time and get to know you better.
Thank you so much, Nana.
We're going to go all the way to WA for this time. And you come from the royal family.
Yes.
What is it like growing in a royal family, up in WA back in the days?
Well, it's so interesting when you look back and see how psychologically you were guided to grow. I was in a school which was not too far away from, which was off town, and where I stay, where the establishment is, where the royalty stay and still stay now. You move from there to the school, you pass no other houses. So you go to the school and come back to the same place. You don't interact much with other people. And then they make sure you get to learn. They tell you stories about how you come to settle there, how your ancestors fought their way through to establish a kingdom. And those stories are released to you as you grow. At every stage, they tell you about the life of your people and recent life, past lives, middle life, and the interaction with the white man, and everything that you need to know. But you are not made to feel that you are being taught. Mm-hmm. You are made to feel that it's a normal way of life, to be seen, to be growing and knowing who you are and coming where you are coming from. So, and besides, you are shown how to respect people, and they tell you what to do when you meet an elder, and then, to accept them as your fathers, even if they are not your fathers. If they are related to you, they let you understand who you are. And I'm coming from a very senior royalty. Okay. And so at birth, I was seen to be an elder person, even though I was young. Okay. Right now, as I'm sitting, I have grandchildren there who are almost 80 years and above. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I have children who are above 80 and things like that. Very elderly people, very old people who are supposed to be my sons, my grandchildren. So if you see anybody I call a brother, they are there, but not as many as those I call my children and my grandchildren. Okay. So you are helped to understand how to relate with them. Those people who call you their grandfather, despite the age difference, will normally have the privilege, disrespect for you. So like they play with you, kind of. They tell you, they see you and say, hey, grandpa, what is this? Then they joke with you and you have to respond and all that. I see. So you have to, they teach you how to live in society.
But were other, like non-royals allowed in the school?
Oh yeah. I mean, the school I attended is WA Experimental Primary. Okay. It's still the same, WA Experimental Primary. and it was open for everybody.
Okay.
Except that at the beginning, it was a fair school in Wa, and the whites district commissioner courted the friendship of my grandfather then to send their children to the school, his children to the school. And my father was one of the, quotes, unlucky children that was sent to the school.
Look at that.
Yeah. And when my father was sent to the school in 1933, he was a small boy, it was time for his mother and all the relations to come to the Pelpuo house, wept, and then blame my grandfather for taking one of his sons to school, because the school was seen to be an aberration. You don't have to send children there because this is a white man who will teach them their ways that are not good and all that.
It was probably not Islamic too.
It was heavily Islamic.
Okay.
Heavily Islamic.
Okay.
But the royalty was open to everything. You know, it's open to people who pour libation, people who pray. So that was it. But both of them, both the Islamic establishment, the traditional establishment who pour libation, were all against the white establishment. So if you sent your child to school, it was seen to be unacceptable. The Islamic people will say they will convert him or her into Islam. Then the others will say they will teach him blasphemous lifestyles, and he'll come and will not be able to fit in society. So when my father was sent there to Was Experimental Primary, it was a very bad omen. Wow. And my grandma cried until she could cry no more. You know. So that was the school I was sent to.
Wow.
40 years later, after my father was sent, I too was sent there. And
did any of your father's siblings go, or just your dad?
Oh, actually, he had two other earlier siblings who were sent there, but who couldn't finish.
Okay.
So my father was the hope that he would actually go and finish, because my grandfather was convinced completely that school was good and that he should pick one of his sons and bring him. So when he sent my father, it was not good news at all. But he insisted and kept him there.
Wow.
Until he went through Standard 7. In Standard 7, the white colonialists thought that they needed people on hands. They needed hands at the assembly, the traditional council. So they withdrew. There was a policy to withdraw all people who were in Standard 7, even without writing your final exam. He was about to write his final exam, but the policy was to withdraw all of them, Standard 6, Standard 7, and let them start a traditional council.
Wow.
So he was withdrawn. And so he worked in the Wa Traditional Council and worked in all the other villages around until we also came.
I see. But when he started at the Traditional Council, by then had the establishment now seen the value of school, or still they were a bit tricky?
Oh, when I entered school in the late 60s, 70s, it was still the same.
Wow.
You know, we were being sung. There were songs composed about us that we were going to go to hell, because we were going to the white man's school. We were not learning the Quran, and we're learning the way to the world, and the world is not where we have come for. We have come because we want to go back into the world of the spirits and live with God in a peaceful manner. And so you can't go to paradise if you cannot learn the Quran and be able to recite it and be able to do all that, perform all the rites about Islam. And if you cannot even speak Arabic, for example, they will say, well, because you are going to school, when you die and they wake you up in your grave, they will ask you in Arabic, what is your name? And what is your religion? And who are you following? If you cannot recite them all and respond adequately, then the angel of death will hit you and then drag you to hell.
Wow.
So children, as we are, those were the stories that were coming up. And people will even go and draw pictures of the kinds of angels and the cudgels they wield. So at one point, I had to leave school on my own without the notice of my dad.
To go and practice your Arabic?
Yeah, so I went and I was running to Arabic school small, until I was found out by one teacher, Teacher Monkey. We used to call him Teacher Monkey because he was insulting. He went anytime you did something bad. You know, we were fond of climbing trees, climbing walls, you know children.
Yeah.
So he would call them monkeys. So the students rather called him Teacher Monkey because he liked saying you are monkeys. Until I was found out by Teacher Monkey when we closed. They closed from school. Something happened in the Arabic school, and I was so disconcerted, so I left the place. And then I didn't know how to go back because I had absented myself for about 3 weeks.
Wow.
And so I was going to the school. I got to the point, I didn't know what to do, so I stopped by the way and then climbed a mango tree. I saw some boys who were not in school uniform, so I joined them. I was in school uniform. So when the teacher was coming back, I had climbed down and I was walking. Then he saw me. Rashid, what are you doing here? I didn't know what to say. He said, you've not been to school for a while. Come and ride the bicycle. I'm taking you to your father. And that was how come I was found out that I had dodged, went to Makranta to study there. They said something about me being a royal. You don't need Makranta to be a successful person. You are royal. Why are you here? That's what somebody told me. That day I was so angry and so disturbed. But they said I'll die if I don't go to Makranta. If I die, they will not give me heaven. So I went to Makranta. The Makranta man was telling me I didn't need Makranta. So I was tracing my way back to school, but I didn't have the courage to go there.
After 3 weeks?
After 3 weeks. So I climbed down from the mango tree. He saw me, took me to my father. And the following day, he took me back to school, and we reconciled. And since then, I had found that the school was a place for me, and I worked so hard, committed myself to studies. And even though I wasn't good at the beginning, if you wanted the last 5 people, you always find Rashid there. P5. In P5, when they were promoting us to P6, they left the last 5. Thankfully, if they had added the last 6, I would have been one of them. They would have demoted. Then I entered P6. And in P6, there was a little improvement. I wrote an essay which the teacher came to read in class. I was always dodging. I never wanted to be told to read in class because I didn't know how to read. But I was picking up gradually, but I didn't know I was picking up. So one day they gave us an essay to write. And then I wrote it. And the teacher came and said he was shocked. Hey, Rashid wrote this thing. And then he quoted one sentence. He said, I saw tomatoes, I saw women selling yam, and I saw so many other things. He said it in the, and everybody was looking at me. And from that time, I said, look, there's a potential I wasn't exploring. I thought that, I knew that there was a potential I wasn't exploring. So at the end of the year, I passed to go to Form 1, like JSS 1. Those days, you couldn't enter P6, Form 1, without an exam. So they conducted an exam across board, and I passed to enter Form 1. And from 1, for the first time, I was 13th in class. And I celebrated it. I couldn't believe it, 13th in class. And then I ended Form 4 with being 7th in class. And then when I entered secondary school, I was always among the first 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that started the...
So that was WA secondary?
WA secondary, yeah.
But you seem like the laid-back type. I mean, did you do any sports, or were you the one that was always in the library minding your own business?
Funny, you know why I wasn't performing? When you leave the school, we're all looking for somewhere to go and play. Even your friends who are not in school will come and be standing there waiting for you to finish. And those who finished, who were left earlier, who would close earlier from their classes, would come and be beckoning you to finish quickly and come. They'll take all your books, your pen, your pencil, everything, they'll take them. So you just go like that home. So you won't even know how to study in the night and all that. So I was one of the guys who was playing football around. Every time we are playing, I did a garden pastime. When I closed from school, I'll go and look at my garden, interesting place. Then I'll go and play football. And then in secondary school, I joined the boxing club. And then I became a boxer.
I never would have thought.
Oh, no.
But you don't look like one that would kill a fly.
Oh, my God. I love Muhammad Ali. He used to impress me so much. So I became a boxer in secondary school. I was fighting in there. And then when I finished secondary school in 1983, I decided to join the boxing club.
Okay.
So I was there. I boxed for the Ward district at the time, not municipality, it was a district. I fought for the Ward district in the light welter division, and I won. And then they took me to the region. That time, Upper West, there was an Upper West, like it is today. And then I fought at that point, and then I won. So, wow. In fact, I used to be looking for the best hard guys to fight with, because that will harden you. And the coach was telling me, go on, keep fighting, and you wake up early morning, 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., and then you run, go to the highest point of Wa, crawl up there, come down. But we didn't have enough facilities. We were fighting with improvised gloves, fighting with an improvised punch bag, and all that. We didn't have mouth guard and nothing. Almost with everything was improvised. But I love it. I was inspired by Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
He was a great inspiration to my life, and I saw him to be a mentor, even from that distance. Anytime he fought and he won his fight, I would not sleep that night.
Wow.
I would be so, I will wake up, I would tell all my friends, I would read the newspapers and tell everybody how he beat the guy. The day he beat Foreman was a great day for me.
Look at that.
In my life.
But you were in the school debate team.
Yeah, I was in the debate team too.
So, but were you boxing and debating at the same time? Was after debate that you went into boxing?
It was concurrent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was concurrent. I was actually, the boxing was getting to the end of my stay in secondary school.
Okay.
O levels, but between 1982 and 1985, by 1985, I had gotten discouraged with boxing. I came to Kumasi. I wanted to enter the Black Bombers. After fighting and being a champion in my region, local champion, I came, and I thought that it was uneasy for me to make my way into the Black Bombers. I had just finished Form 5.
And Black Bombers were like a boxing club or boxing
Black
team?
Bombers is like Black Stars.
Oh, but for boxers, I see.
So I came to Prempeh Hall to fight, and it was a tough day for me. that tournament. In that tournament, Upper West presented 5 boxers.
You were one?
I was one, and I was the last to fight. In all of them, it was only one person who went to the 3rd round. The rest, first round, they were hit knockout. First round, knockout. So the coach told me, you are now our last hope, Rashid. Whatever you can do to win this fight, do it. And I couldn't sleep. I wanted the day to break quickly, and I wanted the fight to come quickly. We went to do the weigh-in and everything, and then we went into the fight. Unknown to me, my opponent was so aggressive. I never faced such a person like that. He was so aggressive on me from the bell, the hour, the minute, the second the bell went on. He kept being on me until the end. And in round 3, I actually was praying that they should just end the fight. Because if my hands had gotten down this way, I couldn't have brought them back. He fought so aggressively.
Wow.
And so well.
Have you ever met him again in life?
No. I couldn't even communicate with them. They were not speaking English.
I see.
I think he was speaking Ga or something. And Kunedu was... Azuma had not turned pro yet.
Okay.
The fire service boxers, they were the best boxers, and they won. This guy, I tried to communicate with him. He was speaking. Those days, I had never come to the north, the south. I didn't understand the languages. Even now, it's a question. So I would speak English. They would speak something to me. So I couldn't establish any contact. And at that point, I just started asking myself, should I continue in this boxing? Because the people I'm relating with have not been to school. And I'm with them. And after my defeat, I just told myself, maybe I need to go back to school and study there. Because I was still there in school, but it reinforced my determination to go back and study more.
Wow.
Yeah. So to ask whether I was in sports, yes, I was in sports. I was doing long jump as well.
Okay.
You know, I'm tall, my legs are long, so I was doing long jump for my school. First of all, for my house, and then when I tried the school, I didn't do well. But the boxing, I did well, even though I failed in the end.
Let me take a break here and come back and find out how it is, or when he decided to join politics. And you know, all his friends seem to think, oh no, I don't think he did any sports. He was too calm for that. There we go. He was even a boxer. We are coming straight back. Well, they say you know my glory, but you don't know my story. Now that's a clear example of a man who we know his glory, but didn't know his story. Very interesting story. But another thing which, you know, I gathered around was some of your close friends were quite surprised when they heard that you were coming into politics. Not because you were not good enough, but they thought you were too good for politics. Politics was a dirty game. There were you were very reserved, you were a worthy leader, but they didn't see you that, look, you're somebody who would want to go on a campaign trail and, you know, join this game of politics. I mean, at which point did this spirit come in?
You know, in school, I have always been a preferred person to be a friend to. Students who would come and could not keep their money, they will say, oh, Rashid, let me give my money to him. They'll give me their money. I'll keep it for them. When they want the money, the denomination they gave me will be the same denomination I'll give them. And I was a very public-spirited person. If I were on campus and I saw that a place was dirty, I organized boys to go and do it. And so I was very well known. And when I was in Form 5, we acted a play called Yellow Caesar. And I played the part of Caesar, who was then, you know, a Roman emperor. So when I acted it, I was seen to have performed so well. And they gave me the name Caesar. So on campus, I was Caesar. Everywhere I passed, Caesar. Caesar became so popular. And when I finished school, I decided that there were the guys who were all the time, who were roaming about and were not in school. Before I even entered Form 5, Sixth Form, I'll gather them and prepare them for common entrance, free of charge. I wasn't taking any money at all. And
So you're homeschooling them?
Pardon?
Like homeschooling
Yeah,
them?
homeschool. No, I'll take, when the school is out, is on break.
Oh, break. Okay, like
I will take
vacation
them there.
classes. Okay, yeah.
Even when the schools were on session, in the evenings, I'll take them to school, and then I will teach them. And on vacation, I will take almost a whole school, and I'll get my friends to be helping me bring up kids. There were times I would go to the streets, the KJTR, catch boys and bring them to my class, you know. And when I started politics and I was campaigning, one day I got a call from a young guy. He said, oh, do you know who is talking to you? I said, no. I'm Razak. Can you remember the name? I said, no. Well, remember there was a young boy roaming about. His friends were in school. I was naked roaming about, and you got me school uniform and took me to class and eventually got me into school. I'm now a mining engineer. I want to come and help your politics.
Oh, wow.
So that's the kind of person I was. And when I finished Sixth Form, I recollect there was a secondary school, Wa Community Secondary School, which were not performing well at all. For consistently over a period, their results were so low. I came and took over the school. I begged the headmaster to allow me to bring in teachers. So I recruited my own teachers, took over the school, and then ran the school for a term, you know, and that became well-known, marked in town. And also, I was a youth activist. Okay. And at the time, Jerry Rawlings had done his revolution, and there was what was called the Democratic League of Ghana, DYLG. I became the regional. They used to call the regional chairman or president, regional secretary. I became the regional secretary of DYLG. And I was also employed soon after my sixth form. I was the best national service personnel, voted the national best service personnel. So they employed me there, the National Youth Council.
Okay.
And I became the regional secretary of the DYLG as well. So I went to almost all the villages around. I recall that one day, and I was on bicycle, every time on bicycle. I recall that on one day I was coming from one of my trips and I saw a woman being carried on a bicycle, behind a bicycle, and she was suffering in labor. So I realized that around that whole stretch of settlements, there were no clinics, nothing, no hospital. And they were traveling like 25 kilometers into Wa.
On a bicycle?
On a bicycle.
Eesh.
So I wrote, I had not had any interaction with many people here, but I wrote, somebody told me I could write to any embassy. So an intuition, through an intuition, I wrote to the Canadian embassy and told them I wanted a clinic to build in a certain location, to be built in a certain location. Surprisingly, they replied and approved it and told me that they will give me the material. I have to provide the labor and everything. I agreed. So we got the labor, we carried sand, we carried stone. They gave us the money to buy cement. And so we built a clinic there at Charango. Today it's still there, serving the people still. So that's the kind of person I was. Building a day nursery. There was another place we went. In that whole enclave, there was no school. All this while, I was just in my early 20s, like 21, 22.
Wow.
I went to that place and realized that everybody was naked and outside. So I asked them, they said, well, they had to cross a stream in order to go to the school whenever it was raining. So many of them could not go to school. So I again wrote to the Catholic secretariats, and they came to inspect the place and build a 6-classroom block there. And that's the first time those communities had their school.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I entered secondary school, also, I was seen to be a natural leader. The first time I had a leadership experience was in Form 2. I was very committed to my studies, not interfering too much in what people were doing. But at one point, they said they didn't like the class captain. There were some hard guys there protesting every day. They didn't like the class captain. It attracted the attention of the school, the class master those days. He came and asked us, what was happening. They listed the reasons why I didn't like him. Then he asked, so who do you want? As if they had planned it, everybody said, Rashid. So I became the first class captain. And then, along the line, I became a senior prefect in the secondary school, in sixth form, assistant senior prefect. And then, all this were exposing to me that leadership was by a choice, by the choice of the people, not by the choice of the person. You might not present yourself, but the community would choose you. Yeah. One day, when I finished the university and I was posted to Issa, about 55 kilometers from Wa, to become the director of the Institute Youth Leadership Training Institute, which I established during that time. Okay. Yeah, I established it myself, and they said I should. So when it was taken over by government, they said I should be the first director employed. So from University of Cape Coast, I came there to be the first director. One day, as I was working, I saw motorbikes and people come in. They said, look, we want you to come to WA and we want you to be our member of parliament. And I was shocked.
Normally, politicians will always get their own friends and say, look, you go and start this agitation for me. And then I'll say, were you completely surprised or you had wind of it?
Completely surprised, because I had never thought of it. Of course, I was very active in politics on campus. I contested SRC elections and lost.
Okay.
Yeah, with Professor Oduro, who is now the Pro Vice Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast. Very well very eloquent guy, and I wasn't, as you know, I'm not that eloquent.
Of course you are.
But he could articulate so well. So I contested, we contested. In fact, he persuaded me, he tried to persuade me to become his secretary, and my supporters wouldn't have it that way. They wanted me to be the SRC president. And so we contested, and I was writing. I used to write a lot, newspapers, whilst I was in the university. News commentaries, those who were listening to news commentaries that time, I was writing news commentaries to GBC and writing articles to Graphic and Times whilst I was in secondary school. So I was easily known for my political activity. And I established TAIN and became its first president. You know TAIN?
Yeah.
The Tertiary Education Institutions Network, the student branch of the NDC. You have the TESCOM. Oh, the whole Ghana.
Oh, you?
Yeah. Whilst I was in Cape Coast, I have this friend called Wahid. And Wahid is also my grandson, the son of Alhaji Muhammad Idrisu.
Okay.
Yeah. He and Nanabora, who died, was the MP for where Asaf Osofmaf was MP. He was, yeah. He was a member of parliament. They came to me and asked. They told me how they went to Cape University of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Tech to establish TAIN, and they failed. So this time they said, Obeda someone asked us to come and tell you to do this for us. So I worked with them, and then we got TAIN established. And then I said, because I'm a student politician, I don't want to become a leader, the leader of TAIN. So get somebody. But as Nana spoke to the students who are gathered that time, people who were from various backgrounds, I managed to bring all of them together in one big hall. And Nana came to speak to inspire them. And then he said, and I hinted him not to mention me as a leader because I was into student politics and I'm still looking forward to it. But as he was speaking, he said, well, now we need to have a leader. And I proposed that we have Rashid Pelpuo as your leader. And once he mentioned that, the whole place, burst into, how do you call it, applause, enthusiastic applause, and people were saying, oh, then that's fine, he's our leader. Then I became the student president of TAIN, the first president of TAIN. After some time, I decided that we should have a meeting so we can get a more substantive leadership, because the way they announced it was not good. So a master's student who was interested in becoming a TAIN president filed a nomination. Several other people came around. But I didn't present myself for nomination at all. Then somebody raised his hand and said that he was nominating me. And once he said that, everybody said, yeah, we won't even vote again. Student behavior. I said, oh, he's the president. And that's how I became the president again, So I was compelled to take it over.
So politics has been in your blood then?
Yeah, it's been there, except that I understand human nature. I understand that you don't have to hurt people when they don't need to be hurt. And I understand that when people are down, you don't fight them. You pick them up. And I try hard also to make helping people the focus of my politics, and not to downplay the efforts of other people. In my effort, I try to be committed to the principles of how we live. Either because of religion or because of political beliefs, they have some kinds of principles, and you would have to respect them. And you also have to make sure that you don't drive your vessel into the vessel of another person when there's no need to crash it. So it doesn't sound very much like the Machiavellian kind of politics where you will have to get the end justifies the means. Hit somebody, get it if you have to get it. Somebody in that class of politics will say, no, this is a soft guy and all that. But I also achieved my aim. How could I have been a fourth-time member of parliament in West Central when you have all these people opposing? The last count, I have 4 people opposing me, and all of them very, very worthy representative, a lecturer from Wapole, a deputy minister, a regional minister who had lived and worked there, a former regional director of education, and then my good friend who I formed team with, Wahid, lawyer Wahid, they all came to contest me. And every time I have said opposition, the people still think I should be their leader.
Wow.
And I think that you don't need to be a Machiavellic politician in order to achieve an objective. My aim and objective has always been to make society better. And I know those who are very rational and those who are people-oriented will always agree with me that that is the way to go.
We'll come back to politics, but World Union of Poets Award. I mean, I never knew you were a poet.
Yeah, I'm a poet. That's the other side of my life that people don't know.
And you actually won an award in Italy.
Yeah, I won an award in Italy. The World Union of Poets, they awarded me, you know, and as an icon of peace, poetry, in poetry.
Wow.
Icon of poetry. So,
have you compiled like a book or?
Yeah,
something?
I've got my book. I have my. I should have brought a copy for you too.
You should have.
In fact, I have 3 books.
Okay.
I've published only 1 poetry. Some of the things there are so political, and they are so unlike a politician that sometimes when you read, you say, why is this guy saying all these things? But because of what I'm made, the stuff I'm made up of. I critique. I write everything. There are no barriers when I'm writing.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
Wow. And you PhD in development.
Yes, development policy.
Development policy. So on the subject of development policy, I will broaden it and then we'll look at Africa. And why it is that our development is really, really stagnating. And sometimes it's just so clear, it's so painful, I mean, what is it that is wrong with Africa, if I may ask?
Actually, this question was the question that inspired me to do my PhD research. What is wrong with Africa? Why are we so poor? Why are we so broke? So I try to trace what are the policies we do, the set of policies we plan, that go into our development. And so I try to research Ghana and Uganda. I took 2 countries, Ghana and Uganda, and I tried to find out the genesis of the policies, the development policies, and to find out the outcomes of those policies, and to find out exactly where we failed, that we plan to do A, B, C, D. Why have we failed in the end? So it is all as a result of my worry about Africa. Is our failures because of genetic factors? Is it in our blood or in our stars? Is it because the African is endemically defined as poor? Why do we breed poverty? What is the way forward? And that's how come I did the research. And then I found out that a lot of things happen along the line as we try to implement a certain policy. The idea of instability and government, and in the 2 countries, political instability was part of the life of our people. Many coup d'etats, many starters and restarting, and situations where leadership would stay on and on and on without recourse to the democratic principles that establish them. So I realized that we need to do much more in Africa. But importantly, we need to have stable democracies like Ghana has. And essentially, we also need to have informed economic development trends so we can learn from our experiences. So we can have an African government that can be changed by the people, that is aware it can be changed, and that is aware it should not be corrupt. So you have 2 things. Don't be corrupt. Know that you are transient, you'll be changed, and know that the people are looking at you because of an end. And the end is that you should be able to affect positively in their lives. So if you can establish this in the African continent that everybody knows that we have a democratic system of government, because that's the final choice we have made. And everybody knows that we need to run a strong economy.
But sorry to interject, but is democracy that by all means every 4 years just get ready and pack out and get somebody in, get ready and pack out and get somebody in, when we are such a growing or struggling to grow country?
Actually, democracy, in my thinking, is not just necessarily every 4 years you change. It's about choices. If you can make a choice and say, we want to do 4 years, stay with the choice. If you say, we want to do 5 years, stay with the constitution. You know, the idea is that whatever choice a country makes, stay with that choice. Don't circumvent the rule. If you circumvent the rule as a leader, you commit chaos. So it's not just about the fact that democracy is about term of office, but it's about what the people want and the fact that power flows from them onto you, and that you will do the wishes of the people. You know, that's the idea. And I was
watching an interview, I can't remember where, but I think Chairman Rawlings was asked something, and he says, don't get me wrong, in the revolutionary time, there was democracy, but not constitutional rule. So his belief was that at the time, there was still democracy. The courts were working, the judges were working, the banks, everything was working, but we were not working with the constitution. I mean, is there anything right or wrong with that? Stable, give it time, spread the power. Because when it's politics, that the money we spend, it's just, is it not too expensive for us?
It's very expensive. But let me, first of all, pay tribute to this man, Jerry John Rawlings, you know, for agreeing to lose his grips out of power when the time was due. It's unlike Uganda. We started together, okay, some few years apart. They are still keeping one leader. And democracy is a suspect there. And so the people are on time bomb. Jerry is right in some sense, where democracy is defined as stability and where it is also defined as development and freedom.
Rule of law, courts are working.
Yeah, freedom. So because of freedom, because of rule of law and all that, you have your freedom. But there was one thing missing, which was popular choice. Are we leaders because the people want us to be leaders, or did we impose ourselves on them? How do we get change if they don't want us? If you cannot change the leader, if the leader turns autocratic, if Jerry was good, fine. What about if after Jerry, somebody takes over and he's a complete autocrat, he will flout all the laws, he has sovereignty in his hands and he has power in his hands. How do you change such a person? He becomes a thorn in the flesh. You know, if you look back at history and see how all these people came to destroy their various countries, you know, come to the Congo, come to Togo. Well, Togo is quite okay. You go to Zaire and all these places. There is because people decided that it was all about them. It wasn't about the people. And so it became very difficult for them to even transit into the next phase of their lives. And so they stayed on. In Zaire, Mobutu prayed that he would be he would die in his leadership. And surprisingly, he won. Camus Banda, after 90 years, he still wanted to be power. He still wanted to be president of his own country. He failed. You know, so many other people who took Africa for a ride, and then they fell along the line, and the people were the ones who suffered the most. So we've gone that line, we've gone that direction, and we've made a choice. And the choice is that there's a dispensation, and the dispensation is that there must be a democracy. Write your constitution, choose the term. If we say 5 years, let's stay with the 5 years. If Ghana says 4 years, let's stay with it. However expensive it is, democracy is good, but it's very expensive. And I think that the good thing about democracy is about the economy. That people can critique the economy and get you to do what will make the people better. If you fail in that direction, the whole system will collapse.
We are coming straight back. Don't move. Well, thank you very much for staying. Personality profile with Rashid Pelpuo, Honorable Member of Parliament for Wa Central, the most unassuming boxer you probably ever met in your life. But any of your kids following politics, writing, or boxing? Have you spotted any traits in any of them yet?
I think a few days ago, my boxing thing came to my head. So I got up and I was exercising and throwing my hands, and my first daughter was around. So I asked her whether she wouldn't take it up for me to rest. She started laughing and even running away. She said, I don't want to get near boxing at all. Well, she's a lawyer, and she's happy to do her law. And no, she's going to be a lawyer soon, because she hasn't been called to the bar yet, but she's finished. Then the second child, first one Mara, second one Hira, and then Hina. They like writing.
Okay.
They write a lot, you know, and they'll write stories and give them to me to read. And without knowing that I'm writing, they are just picking up, and they like to write. Okay. And Hira wrote a poem that I love so much. One day I'll get it published. Wow. She's in class 6, and she wrote a beautiful poem. You know, so I know it's the writing thing that is in them, but not the boxing.
You know, just going back a little bit, when you went to school, I mean, the same, he's going to get change and everything. Later on, I mean, like now that, look, you're on the world stage, has the perception changed? About going to formal school. Has it changed now?
Oh, it's changed drastically. Actually, the change of it came when I myself was trying to get people into school. You know what happened? When we were growing, Wa was the center of the world. You were made to believe that Wa was the center of the world. I mean, even believing that the prophets knew Wa. When you are talking about Nabi Isa, that is Jesus, as if Jesus knew Wa. Wow. Nabi Muhammad, God's peace be with them all. As if they all knew Wa. Adam, that when they were going to take the earth to build, to create Adam, and you imagine even the point where they did it in Wa. So Wa was the center of everything. And look, they bring you up in such a way that it surprises you when you come here and somebody looks down and say, oh, you are from the north. No, because you think you are even better than them. Wow. That's how you were brought up. We had name for every tribe in Wa. Everybody. You call yourself Ashanti, we have a name for you. You call yourself a Gonja, we have a name for you. That kind of thing. So I started reading, but as I grew, entered secondary school, even before I entered secondary school, I started to read. I read Things Fall Apart, Jane Eyre, Burning Grass, No Longer at Ease, and all those kinds of books. Test of the D'Urbervilles, Mayor of Casterbridge. While I was in secondary school, in Form 1, I was reading those kinds of books. And then my mind was opening up. I began to see Wa as a tiny spot, and that the bigger world was outside, and that education was the reason. And so I committed myself to studies and wanted to know more. Wow. That's how come I read a PhD. I didn't think about that. Actually, I wanted to be a teacher. All my life, I wanted to be a teacher, just a teacher in the secondary school or a training college. And I tried very hard. When I finished university, I wanted to be teacher. They took me to become the director of the institute. I was happy. But I said, okay, I'll read masters and go and teach in the training college or nursing school or somewhere where I'll be teaching. When I finished the master's degree, they promoted me to Accra as a deputy national coordinator, finance administration. Then I said, what is happening? I can't do my teaching. Then I started a PhD alongside with my politics. I said, if I don't win, then I'll get my PhD and I'll go and teach somewhere. I got both. So Education,
maybe one day. Maybe one
idea,
day. I'm sure one day you end up in the classroom and teach, because you be a good teacher.
You know, psychology. I read psychology and economics. One of the things that you would realize is that when you are aiming at something, it tells the mentality you carry. It's not just about teaching. It's about helping human beings.
Be impacting
That's
somewhere else.
what is in me, you know, in my DNA. How do I advance the cause of society? And as I was thinking, it was teaching one-on-one. Society was thinking that
you have to teach on a larger scale.
Teach in a larger scale.
But before we end the interview, can we get a poem from you?
Oh yes.
Let's
you know,
let's get a poem. One of the hidden traits that I'm sure many of you don't know.
My poetry, I write on politics, I write on freedom, I write on love, I write on all kinds of things. This is about freedom.
Okay.
Yeah. And the title of this poem is Laments of a Patriot.
Laments of a Patriot.
We fought through long journeys of hopes from the pains of adversities to keep our dreams. We, the patriots of the land, sacrificing to liberate our people. We came to the crossroads, lost in the labyrinthine trends of commerce and trade, groping in determined steps, in deadly throes of bad economics. We, the patriots of the land, against the backs of cruel bands, we fought to shield the people from raindrops of abuses. But the roofs came down in rebellious disorder to smother kill our dreams, and we lost the trophy. Nothing to come home with. We, the patriots of the land. We stand listless in punks, troubled that we send our people this far and see failure flourish. Our people singing dirges in tears of disappointment. In our innocence, we mastered by deceit, we had all these sorry souls for a lost cause. But we yet keep the dream, beginning to recreate ourselves from the settled dust of forgotten glories, to ride high in change and order, to brace our hopes in this land of our birth, in this place, this motherland, we, the patriots of the land. I wrote this in 1999.
On that note, folks, on that note, that was the other side of Rashid Pelpuo, Honorable Member of Parliament for Wales Central, that you did not know. But before I go, I always give you this number. They make my shirts for the show, and that's Tante's Fashion, 024-366-2001, 024-366-2001. They make my shirts for the show. Give them a call and get yourself a nice shirt. And as I said, on Sunday, 28th, I'll be at Accra, the Presby, talking about youth empowerment. So if you're anywhere near Accra, you'll pop in the Presby Church at 6:30 p.m. and listen to how it is that you can advance your potential. Thank you very much for allowing us in your office.
Thank you.
Such an honor, such an honor, such an honor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I do appreciate it.
We'll be back to do this all over again. Thanks for watching.